Hey, it's Donny A. Today we're going to talk about adding a jam section to Atlantic City. This song was written by Bruce Springsteen, but it was also covered by the band, and I prefer the band's version. Let me know if you prefer the boss's version or the band's version. We're going to go into, a chord tone based soloing approach to this and how I would improvise over it, and we're also going to talk about the triads that you could use to play this chord progression. So we're going to jump right in. So you need to understand the chord progression, and the chord progression is F sharp minor to A to D to A, and it goes like this. And almost the entire song is like that. There's a bridge that's different, and then a couple times instead of going to D, it goes to E and it holds on E. But that's pretty much the whole song, and we're gonna solo over that. So you need to understand the chord progression here. The chord progression that we're working with is a 6-1-4-1 chord progression. So that's out of the Nashville number system. I think that is a super helpful way to look at chord progressions. So your 6th chord is minor, and that's your F sharp minor. That's your 6th chord. Your A is your 1, and then your D is your 4, and then you're back to your A, which is your 1. Your 6 is your relative minor of your 1 chord. So F sharp minor is your relative minor to A major. And why that is helpful is because when you're picking a scale to solo over, the relative major and relative minor chords share all the same notes in a scale. So an F sharp minor scale is the same as an A major scale. So as our bass scale to solo over this, we're gonna use our A major pentatonic scale, which is right here starting on your 2nd fret. So it's 2-5, 2-4, 2-4, 2-4, 2-5, 2-5. And then there's extensions off of that. That's just form 1. We're gonna go into form 2 and everything on this. But the one thing that's different about what we're going to do is you have a 4 chord in this chord progression. Well, one thing that you should understand about a pentatonic scale, it's only 5 notes, right? So you're missing 2 notes out of that because there's 7 notes in a major scale. And the 2 notes that you're missing are your 4 and your 7. So we're going to add our 4 in. So we're kind of leaning more towards a major scale, but I like to think of it as I'm comfortable in a pentatonic scale, so that's my bass, and then I'll add in the notes where I need them. So we'll add in that 4 every once in a while. We don't have to do it every time because these chords move quick. So I'll just give you an example of how I'm going to solo over this. And then we'll talk about what I did and the techniques I use. But I'm really going to try and target the chord tones and make it melodic. On this channel, we like to talk guitar and try and get better at guitar. So if that's what you're into, please consider subscribing. So the idea I'm doing here is I'm searching for the chord tones, and I'm using a scale, but I'm targeting those intervals within the scale. When you have a minor chord, it's made up of a 1, a minor 3rd, and a 5th. And you need to understand that to start targeting chord tones. So once you find your 1 of your chord, which is your 6th of the scale because it's a 6 chord, right? You slide into that 6, which is your F sharp note, so that's your 1. And then if you start understanding how to find a minor 3rd on the guitar neck, then you can easily find it. But in this instance, it is easy because it's just the next note down in the scale. And your minor 3rd is right here on the 2nd fret of your G string. And that is also an A note. So conveniently, when you have a relative minor, the 3rd of that relative minor is your 1 of your relative major. So if that's confusing, what I'm trying to say is your A note, which is your 1 of your A chord, is also in your F sharp minor chord. So that A note is available to use as a chord tone, which is why it sounds good. And then the next chord in this progression is an A, right? And these chords move fast in this chord progression, so it's a little harder to solo over fast chord changes and hit chord tones. So you don't have to be perfect on hitting them every time. But what's nice about this little idea, right, is you slide into your F sharp, and then you're dancing between that F sharp and that A, and then you land on that A, so it resolves to that A when it goes to the A chord. And then what I was doing is an A chord is a major chord, so a major chord's a 1, a major third, and a 5. So right below that A note is your major third. So when you're on a G string, your major third is right below it on your B string. And then next to a major third is always your fourth. So this is not in the pentatonic scale, but it's your D note, and the next chord is a D. So what I was doing there after I was on that A was just dancing between this major third and the fourth. And then walking back to that A. And then the other idea I was just doing a little hammer onto that 6 chord. And then I was doing a little walk back and forth between the first and the third interval. So that's just a 1, 2, 3 is your intervals there when you're on that A chord. And it's just a similar idea like that. And you can make a ton of melodies and when you're on a chord and you play just 1, 2, 3. Those are super melodic notes that you can get some great ideas out of. And then the next thing I was doing once I got through that idea, right, was just to try and move up in the scale. So now you're in your form 2 of the pentatonic. And this interval is your 5th interval of your A chord. So that's in the chord as well. And then your 6 is right a whole step away from your 5. And now you're back in this same shape that you have here. And I was using that shape again to my advantage. And one other thing that you can do, and I did, was when it came back to that D chord, I was just putting my pinky on the 10th fret here on the high E string. Because that is your D note, so that's your 1 of your D chord. And then you're back into the 3rd of your A chord. And then as you walk back down, you're back to the 1 of your A chord, and then you're at your 6. And then the last little idea I did there was just doing, 2 notes per fret, or 2 strums per fret, I guess. And that's just a little kind of walk back down the scale here. And you're following your A chord, so you're going from your 6 to your 5 to your 3 to your 2 to your 1, and then it's 1, 6, 1 is what you're doing there. And all of that sounds good because you're really dancing around that A chord, and the A chord comes up twice. So that's the idea there that I was kind of doing. And you can do this around the neck, in different positions, and you don't have to do the exact same thing. I don't want you to do the exact same thing. It's just the general idea of, okay, I'm playing my 6th chord. I'm going to try and hit my notes that are in my 6th chord, which is a minor chord, and then I'm going to my 1 chord, which is a major chord. I'm trying to hit some notes that are in that chord. And you can hit other notes as well, but you really want to try to resolve to one of those chord tones that's within that chord. And that's going to sound great and be very melodic. And another idea with something like this, if you're playing around with it, you got 2 guitar players, or even if you're by yourself, is you can start playing triads. And there's multiple different places on the neck to play all these triads, but the cool thing about triads is when you have triads, they're always right next to each other. So you have an F sharp minor right here. And the cool thing about a relative major and a relative minor is they share 2 notes. So the 2 of the notes in each of the chords are the exact same, which is cool because you have an F sharp minor here, which is on your 7th fret on the D string, on your 6th fret on the G string, and then on your 7th fret again on your B string. And then you have an A right here, which shares 2 of these notes. So it shares your D and your G string. So you have 7th on the D, 6 on the G, and then you have 5 on your B. And then your D chord is right there as well. So you have this D bar chord right here. You have a D chord barring your 7th fret on the D, G, and B string. So. And you can be as efficient as you want with this stuff, depending on your fingering, right? But it's cool because it's all in the same area, and you can start using those ideas for soloing too. So you can definitely just play those as rhythm parts. But if you want to play it up here, you have your F sharp minor chord right here, which would be the top of that would be your triad. So you're on your 11th fret of your G string, you're on your 10th fret of your B string, and you're on your 9th fret of your high E string. And then because you share 2 notes, your A is right here, and it's that D shape. So that A, you have your 9th fret on your G string, you have your 10th fret on your B string, and you have your 9th fret on your high E string. And then your D chord, your D bar chord would be here. Well, the top of that would be right here. So you got your G string at the 11th fret, and then on your B string and your high E string, you're just grabbing both of those, and that's on your 10th fret. So this would go like this. Then if you're going to use that to solo, you just kind of target those notes within the triads. And if you start to realize that this is just your 4th position of this A major pentatonic. Then it makes it a lot easier because then you know what other notes you can hit within that area instead of just hitting chord tones. So those are just some cool ideas how you can solo over this, and intervals are really what opened up the entire fretboard to me. Once I started understanding them, they are what opened everything up for me. So whatever you can do to start learning those, it's going to help you drastically. And the cool thing about intervals is that the distance between 2 notes is always the same. So if you're looking for a minor third, it's always the same. If you're looking for where a 5th is in relation to your 1, it's always the same distance. And you'll start to see these patterns, and then everything's going to start making a lot more sense to you once you start working out these intervals. And it becomes a lot easier once you put the time in to start attacking or targeting these chord tones while you're soloing, because at first it seems very daunting, but you can do this. I know you can. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.